For a century, physics oscillated between two architectures of reality: the continuous manifolds of classical relativity and the discrete quantized structures of particle mechanics. When quantum field theory attempts to calculate continuous field interactions, the math routinely produces infinite thermodynamic divergences. Standard models treat these infinities as computational breakdowns, anomalies that must be manually excised through ad hoc renormalization procedures. The theory of infinity, or TOI, inverts this historical standard. Rather than treating absolute infinity as a mathematical glitch, the framework positions it as the ontological primitive, the primary substrate from which all structure is carved. By treating absolute infinity as an error, traditional physics has effectively filtered out the primary mechanic through which the universe generates stable form. Standard axiomatic systems often assume an initial empty set, or fundamental particles ex nihilo. The theory of infinity relies on strict ontological parsimony. Using a top-down schematic, physical structure is extracted directly from the infinite continuum. This diagram shows the canonical emergence equation at an invariant locus. The absolute infinite continuum is drawn into a specific constriction, the not infinity. This symmetry operator filters continuous chaotic divergence into ordered channels, yielding the golden set, our bounded, thermodynamically stable physical reality. To exist at all, physical reality relies on this exact pipeline to compress continuous spatial frequencies into an observable state. Within the void, continuous space operates as an exponential fluid. To prevent this fluid from diverging into infinite, unresolvable noise, it must be bounded by a mathematical limit. Substituting exponential fluid into the Fibonacci sequence extracts spatial phase roots. This chart tracks those roots oscillating across dimensions. Notice the frictionless convergence. The roots lock perfectly onto the dashed red line, evaluating to 0.9624, twice the natural logarithm of the golden ratio. This value defines the prime logarithmic anchor. It represents the point where the exponential fluid reaches its minimum energy state, before it is forced to fracture into the complex plane to balance the spatial matrix. This stabilization creates the foundational boundary of space. This proved that continuous exponential expansion does not spiral out of control. It is strictly bounded by discrete, rigidly exact golden geometry. Extracting this geometry produces a primordial axial twist driven by opposing topological vectors, an expansive acute tangent pushing outward, and a compressive grave tangent enforcing constraint. When these sound waves collide without harmonic mediation, the geometric friction generates intense instability. The theory of infinity formally defines this unrenormalized state of continuous thermodynamic divergence as the noisy sky. Without a mathematical mechanism to process this interference, the universe would remain entirely trapped in chaotic, unresolvable wave interference. To resolve the noisy sky, the universe employs the asymptotic sieve. This mechanism functions as a harmonic filter, primarily governed by the alternating Quadranacci pulse. This pulse dictates the volumetric expansion of four-dimensional space. Explicit integer nodes, like 15, 56, and 208, serve as physical guardrails. Continuous expansion is forced through this rigid scaffolding, preventing spatial geometry from fracturing into complex imaginary states. Standard field theories tend to ignore or delete the infinities generated here. The asymptotic sieve actively calculates the exact numerical gap between the continuous fluid and the discrete crystal lattice of the integers. This residual difference is quantified as thermodynamic friction, or geometric exhaust. It is a highly conserved mathematical magnitude, appearing repeatedly across spatial boundaries. Geometric exhaust is the exact structural tension required to bridge static 3D volumes with observable angular momentum. When continuous space is pushed into higher dimensions, polynomials cannot balance their internal geometry using strictly real numbers. The universe resolves this through the zero-sum double join. Every emergent physical shell is thermodynamically balanced by an exactly proportional opposing complex charge. This diagram illustrates the thermodynamic tension when continuous waves enter three-dimensional Fibonacci boundaries. This spatial drag forces inverted phase tension downward through the golden seed sieve. The turbulent 3D space resolves drag by casting a frictionless 2D holographic shadow, locking on to the inverse golden ratio. Multidimensional physical reality survives its own topological friction by mathematically synthesizing itself into a stable, lower-dimensional Euclidean projection. These abstract topological mechanisms directly dictate the structure of atomic geometry. In the topological periodic table, atomic numbers are the physical results of a Riccati flow traversing continuous space. This flow encounters structural thresholds defined by the matter-knot function. When the boundary mass matches the intrinsic carrier gap, we hit the universal zero-set lock. This phase law forces the continuous Riccati spiral to truncate, closing the spatial period and mandating a dimensional shift to start a new row. These mathematical truncations correspond to the noble gases, such as helium, neon, and argon. They are the discrete pair root solutions mandated by the phase zip of the continuous manifold. This confirms that chemical elements and quantum bounds are direct covariance projections of discrete Fibonacci ratios governing continuous waves. The generation of reality follows an exact topological pipeline. Continuous potential is locked by logarithmic anchors, stripped of turbulence by the asymptotic sieves, and resolved by the cross-root golden synthesis. Standard physics frameworks require constant intervention to excise infinite divergence. The physical universe requires no patching. Its internal geometric symmetries self-regulate with absolute precision. Discrete prime integers and continuous transcendental fluids are unified mathematical reflections, bound together by invariant topological laws. Mathematical infinity is not a breakdown of human predictive power. It is the singular, flawlessly structured canvas upon which reality is drawn.